Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dark Souls. Now, before the video gets started, I would like to point out something immediately. One, you won't notice that there is any game sound. Two, I'm actually recording this at a later date, as in the voice I'm recording at a later date, because the original audio was lost. For whatever reason, I do not know, but all the audio was lost, but the video was completely fine, so I don't understand exactly what happened, but something went very wrong, which is very, very annoying, to be honest. So, I thought I would just do a voiceover, because the video footage is completely fine, as you can see, and all the fighting and everything is just absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever, just the audio, for whatever reason, was completely lost, and this was, well, one, I was extremely annoyed. Two, I was kind of depressed because I actually worked pretty hard on this video and I was very, very happy with the final result as well. I was very happy with just everything that happened. This was a very good video. I enjoyed it myself, so therefore I would assume you guys would enjoy it. And that, frankly speaking, for me is a huge loss. As you can see, I'm killing the plants, and basically what I intended to do, what I said at the start of this video, is I planned to essentially search around the forest, and I did do that. I did search the forest quite thoroughly. However, I did do a number of other things too. In other words, I got distracted. I remembered part of the way through about the mage guy back at the start, and I went to see him. You will see that later, of course. But yes, here's me. At first, this was the point where I saw that thing that disappears, and I thought, hey, I can sneak up on it using the stealth ring. However, that didn't work, and I was like, oh, this didn't work. I tried to attack it, but it was way too late. It was gone. I thought maybe I could attack it while it's invisible, but no. It was just completely gone. So, I gave up on that, and continued to explore the forest. And I think I may have mentioned in the last video I intended to go and fight the Hydra. Now, this is what I'm slowly progressing towards. However, as you may notice in one moment, I turn around and suddenly notice this passageway, and I'm instantly intrigued as to where it leads to. So I follow it. I think, hey, look, there's an item down there. I should go get that. There's a blood pool, which indicates someone died here, and I'm instantly greeted by this fellow with a spear. And my instant reaction is, oh shit, this guy is rather large. I better think about how I take this guy on before just running in blindly. I don't know why I was fiddling around with my items there. I think I was trying to think maybe I should swap some sort of, oh, my ring. I was thinking of swapping out my ring, because I didn't really want to fight him with a stealth ring. So the fight goes pretty bad in my favor, so I start backing off, and I just gotta get away from this guy, and oh shit. Down I go. Death count 102. And of course you can tell I'm definitely recording this at a later date, because I can actually count my caption. I can actually count and read my captions, because obviously those are edited in later. I do not know what number of deaths I'm on when I die, so this is me swapping out the ring, which I did not have a chance to do earlier. And then trying to work out where the jungle is, or forest. That's also something which actually gave this video the title. It's a jungle, but it's also kind of like a forest sort of thing. There's some aspects of it that make it seem definitely like a forest, but some aspects make it seem like a jungle, and I was having a hard time deciding which it is. I decided in the end that it's probably more like a forest, due to there being a lot less undergrowth than what a jungle would probably have. However, just some of the undergrowth looks very jungle-esque, is why I had the thought to begin with. So now I get out the faithful halberd, and away I go. Ah yes, and I remember when I read this name come up in front of me, I was like, oh, maybe it's actually a garden. But a garden doesn't really, mean much, in all honesty. And there's me noticing an item, but it's way too late to get. Should I not want to dive after it off of a cliff? And here is me reassessing the situation. I'm like, hey, the item's down there again, so I can attempt to get it again. I decide to go with the halberd, because it gives me the reach and the damage, which is very important. So then I just decide, hey, let's do this. Just charge. So I charge along the shortest route, staying close to the edge, trying to get as close as I can, quick as I can. Lock on, swing, and there it goes, in a oneer. And I'm suddenly like, holy shit, twinkling titanite. I was like, that's how you get it then. From this little guy. And I'm like really happy at this moment. Seriously, I was just ecstatic. Like, oh my god, that's how you get twinkling titanite. Now I can upgrade my dagger. And that's what I will do later on in the video. I'm not sure actually. Did I do it in the next video? No, I'm pretty sure I did it in this video. Probably near the end I upgrade the dagger into the +2. But we'll get to that at a later date. At this point in time, I'm really just like, hey, I've got to take out that guy, I want that item. So I recover my souls, because my souls ain't exactly in a place where I can't recover them. And then again, there isn't many souls to lose, in all honesty. Only 2,000 odd. This is me assessing the situation, seeing if I could like jump down behind him or something. But I noticed that he's right under the cliff and there's no way you can possibly sneak up on this fellow. There's no actual way to possibly sneak. And this was me actually debating whether the stealth ring actually has much use in generalized situations, because the stealth ring is not really useful in a boss fight ever, and it generally isn't useful in a lot of normal fights either, because a lot of the time mobs are facing you. You generally don't often get behind the mobs. They tend to usually just be standing in locations where they will just be facing toward your direction, so there's nothing you can do unless they're blind. There was me responding late with a dodge, and again late with the dodge. You can tell by the dodge just instantly responding after I've been hit. It's a strange thing, basically. But yeah, this is me running away because everything's gone absolutely terrible. So it's potion time. A double dose of potion, maybe overkill a bit, but I decide it's needed. I notice he takes considerable damage even while blocking. So I go a little aggressive here, and that leaves me a bit open. However, I seem to do more or less fine, until this moment, where he stabs me to death, racking up my 103rd kill. Death, even. So now I head back on down, and it's time to take him on again, because once I have my sights set on killing something, I've got to kill it. That's pretty much just the way. I pretty much work like that in Dark Souls. Something becomes my target, and then that target will be battered upon until I down it. Even if it takes me an excessively large amount of time looking back at the gargoyles. And even then, when I think about when I beat the gargoyles, I beat them in kind of a smashing manner. I battered them to death with an upgraded weapon, and they got absolutely demolished by it. So here we are, heading through once again, through the little jungle forest garden. It's definitely a forest. I work out... do I work out? Yeah, I work out at the end of this episode that I definitely agree with myself that it's a forest. Because, well, the game itself describes this as a forest. As you will find out later on, but we'll get to that later. Of course, I know everything that's going to happen because, well, this was one video that I really enjoyed editing and doing everything about. So I was very happy with it. And also at this point I remember walking down this passageway and being like, oh, okay, so that little bug doesn't respawn, so I can't get more. I can't, like, farm it for titanite shards. And at that point I also guess, like, maybe I need to find more of these little creatures if I want to get more twinkling titanite. So I don't have a clue, of course, about where more of these creatures will exist, but I know that I'd be on the lookout for them should I spot one again, as they will provide me with a useful tool. Now this time I employ a slightly sneaky tactic of using the high ground to poke him in the head, and then fall down in front of him and get battered. At this point I do kind of panic, but manage to get out a block, which is something I very rarely use and should definitely use more. With lucky timing, I managed to get a sneaky potion and dodge behind him. Get another sneaky hit, and then he's close, and we go in for the kill. Even though he blocked, he survived a tiny fraction, but then I know he's going to go down no matter what. At this point, I suddenly see, hey, Black Knight Halberd. Holy shit, what's that? But of course, first, there's the loot at the bottom of here. Of course, I want to grab that, because I'm interested in what it is. And there we are, a grass-crest shield. Now, I look at this and go, oh, that's pretty cool, but I'm not really interested in shields. So then I switch my attention immediately to the Black Knight Halberd, and I look at its damage and go, oh my god, what the hell? It's got this crazy 245 damage. However, I do look at the weight of the item, and I see it says 14, and I go, what? And I'm there dual wielding it, and I'm like, okay, we can't even wield it like this. So I immediately say, okay, this is a weapon for when I'm higher level. For the time being, I'm just going to have to stick to the halberd. So I'm like, sweet weapon, but can't use it yet. Gonna be able to use it later. So it just gets put into the inventory, and away I go. Now, I'm like, okay, right, I was intending to go fight those hydras. It's time to go face them. Now we've had our little detour, we've had our little fun. I don't know why I'm looking at my inventory now. I think maybe I was looking briefly at the scythe to make sure it wasn't better. Because I remember, like, I got the scythe, but I never really looked at it. Because it was a few episodes back, actually, that I picked the scythe up, and I was just like, I never really responded to it. I just had it and didn't look. So, we nonetheless go about our business. I see the ice guys, and I'm like, hey, this guy's kind of a little stuck. So, I cheekily poke him from the upper area, and then wonder why I can't hit him even though my weapon passes through him multiple times. I try it from another direction, and there you have it. We have a strange glitchy area where we can hit these giants. I'll wait for this one to move into place, and poke, poke, poke. Free and easy kills, an easy 200 experience, and an item. Blue Titanite chunk, which I have no clue what to do with. So I just go, okay, blue Titanite chunk. At this point I see the Hydra, and then I see that item. And I'm immediately intrigued by this item. I obviously want it. Because whenever I see anything like that, I'm like, ooh, item, ooh. So I run toward it, and I suddenly realize the Hydra is actually pretty damn huge. And I start to decide that maybe approaching it isn't a good idea, and that seals the deal. When the Hydra strikes the ground with its multiple heads, I decide that, okay, maybe the best course of action is to just run away like a little pansy. So I run, and get shot. But I still run. And I decide, no, I'm not taking on the Hydra. It's a little big, it's a little scary. I kind of peed my pants. I'm just going to leave it. So I decide, hey, I remember that big guy. There was that big guy in that passage. I should go face him. But first I'm like, hey, I can probably take this guy on. I'm higher level now. So I decide to go at him. I'm like, hang on, we can take him on. Give him a little dodge, give him a little poke. I'm like, hang on, he can block from back. And yeah, this fight seems to be going fine. I'm doing a little bit of damage, not much. I decide to swap to the dagger and smash. He pummels me to death in a single blow. And I'm like, okay, no, this guy is considerably high level. He's something strong. He's something special. But then I decide, hey, I still want to go that way because I still want to kill that big guy at the top. Because you may remember from a very early episode, probably like episode 2 or 3 maybe, that there was that big guy that I saw, and I was like, nope. And here we go. I immediately go, hey, I've got this twinkling titanite. Let's check it out, see to make sure I can upgrade it. Oh yeah, I check out the Black Knight Halberd first. And I'm like, hey, this thing uses twinkling titanite. That's pretty cool. And now that I look back on it, frankly speaking, I wish I didn't upgrade the dagger, and I'm wishing I put those twinkling titanites into the halberd, because that would have been a much more cool weapon at the end of the day. But it's too late to change such things now. I'm sure I'll get more twinkling titanite in the future. But this is, in regard, I have actually recorded at episode 17 now, with that regard. So, just so you know. Because I was trying everything to recover everything. Because the raw footage was like, you know, it was gone, sort of thing, and I tried recovering it using recovery things to see if I could find it, like, deleted in my, like, the deep files of my computer, but no, there was just nothing to find, nothing to have. There's nothing I could do about it. It was just, the files were just gone. They were just, I don't know what happened to them. All I had was the video. I mean, there is sound. If I were to turn up the sound in this video player right now, you would be able to hear just this horrible sort of horrendous sound that just loops. It's like maybe like a fraction of a second audio clip that just loops for the entire video, and it just sounds really bad. But if I can identify that sound, it is probably the blacksmith clanging on the metal. Like a very tiny fraction of that sound, but it's just like clang for ages, and it just sounds absolutely terrible. And yeah, obviously I can't have that. So I'm guessing that maybe I should slip some music in behind this or something, unless you like just listening to my voice, and then that's perfectly fine and dandy, and yeah, whatever floats your boat. So as you can see, I've managed to make it back to this guy, and I'm like, okay, right, I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to grab my souls and run up the stairs. And that's the plan. I'm also holding the dagger in single hand because I feel that I move quicker. And of course I want to avoid this fellow as much as I can. I grab the souls and I immediately run for the stairs. It's time to start dodging and just run. So I just leg it straight up the stairs. All the way up to the low level area, where I'll be instantly greeted by one of the low-level shield fellows. I approach him and quickly dispatch him, and head down the stairs towards the group of 3. And now I try to dispatch him quickly, but he blocks. And I'm like, hang on, I want to go down that passage, I don't want to go this way. Taking a nasty arrow that stuns me, I take an excessive amount of damage that I didn't mean to. And going into this place kind of has me a little trapped, because you can't attack a spear guy from head on, and yet there is no way to get behind him now. At this point I realize I have kind of trapped myself, and I suffer the consequences, as I get gangbanged by 3 guys that I can't approach from the front. So at this point I was not too happy with this course of action. But I instantly think of a way to cure this problem. I decide, hey, if I'm going to run up behind this shield guy, if I'm wearing the stealth ring, he won't detect me and I'll be able to dispatch him without any notice. So, I change my course of action and head along the same route, back towards those guys. Because of course I want to take out the big guy that I saw, and I want to see what's down there. Because of course I've never checked out that area of the Dead Berg. And yes, I'm very interested in finding any secret loot, as it can contain weird and wonderful items. Of course these plants annoy me notoriously with their little hits that occasionally land, and just drive me crazy, because I just don't want to be hit by them, and yet they always seem to land a hit, unless I use the halberd. So I'm just running along the route. I decide to single hand and just, you know, step up the pace a little. The problem is I can't exactly pinpoint the things I would be talking about at this moment, which is highly annoying, because I do manage to talk fairly frequently during the episodes of Dark Souls, and I think that's quite lucky. Ah, that was me testing the kick. Ah, that reminds me of what I was talking about, actually. What I was actually talking about at this moment is when I got into the fight with those guys with the shield, I wanted to kick them, because that's the only way I can knock the shield out of their hands. But the problem is with the daggers, you can't perform a kick. The only thing you can perform is that cartwheel, which doesn't act as a kick, it acts more like a hit and an escape. Now I swapped to the halberd briefly to show you this is a kick. This is the only way to knock the shield down and then go for the kill. However, I decide that the stealth ring will serve its purpose and will perfectly fine allow me to assassinate these shield guys from behind. Because if I can remove the spear guy with a shield, because it's only them that really completely blocks everything from the front. Any frontal assault on a spear guy is just completely useless. They block everything. So I decide that he's the one I need to remove because he was the only one that was a real problem. The other sword guys, when they swing, they open themselves up to attack, so you can easily land some hits on them. But like I said, spear guys constantly have their shield in front of them, so you can't do anything about it. So this guy is the first, but I'm worried about that guy obviously following behind me, so I quickly move and quickly take out the spear guy while his two friends come to assist, but for some reason clip through me when they swing. I get a little trapped at this moment. I'm like, oh, I do not want to die. So I quickly toast on a potion, turn to face the enemy, out with the halberd, and swing. And swing. And down they go. At this point I did realise that the halberd does enough damage to knock enemies out of block. However, I recover my souls. And this is the big guy I was talking about. I remember seeing him and I was like, hey, this is the guy. And I'm like, well, this guy looks exactly the same as the guy with the spear that I just took out. So, I can probably take this guy. But I also decide that I have a stealth ring. So, hey, I can probably get first stab on him because he's not facing towards me. I nonetheless approach him slowly, just in case. And land first hit with the halberd, dealing an absolutely devastating amount of damage. Approach him from the rear again, so he can't get a hit, and he's gone before he even knew what hit him, dropping me a nice sword and a nice chunk of titanite, and also allowing me to get a blue tearstone ring. I immediately check out the ring, and discover it boosts defense while HP is low, but I decide that is probably not that useful unless it boosts defense by an extremely large amount. And anyway, I prefer not to be hit at all. And of course I notice this area and decide, hey, this is worth searching. I give it a little explore, and I discover there seems to be absolutely nothing of use here. So I decide to turn back. I notice this, and I think, that's strange. I try to knock it down, nothing happens, so I go, okay, it isn't a secret or anything. Start to carry along my way. And now I will head back towards the very beginning where you start the game, because I'm interested in seeing what the mage has to share with me. So I cut my way through the low-level enemies using my very powerful dagger, and making use of my ring to remove any problems in my way, which seems to be many. However, they aren't strong, so cutting through them is rather easy. I wait for him to take a swing, and then I execute him. Here we go. I take a hit, which annoys me, because getting hit by anything low level is annoying. And I decide to move in on the archer quickly and take him out. While this guy takes a swing at me from behind, but clips through me with his first strike, and then hits me with his next. I instantly notice these items, a crossbow and a short sword. And I'm like, these low level items are probably not useful to me. Quickly check the room just to make sure there isn't anything there, and then remove these fellows. And around about here, I get a little bit confused as to where the way back is, because it was so long since I went back through this place that I don't quite remember the right way. Nonetheless, I dispatch the enemies easily enough and cut my way through. Then I try to work out where exactly I'm supposed to be going, noticing a body and thinking, well, it doesn't have an item, I'll just leave him be. And then we carry on and head down the stairs, because I assume that this must be the way out. Taking a potion along the way, because I know I'm going to gain 10 once I reach the bottom. And I'm like, this is the correct way, I remember. Here's the sewer, and there's a rat. So I take out the spear in order to turn that rat into a shish kebab, and that is performed in a single strike. And then I execute him with a nice spear backstab, and quote on how skewered he was. Because, Jesus Christ, just sticking an halberd through a guy is rather deadly. And noticing that there's a lot of people, and an item just went and fell to its doom, so there was no way I could recover that. I'll quickly pick off all of the guards, and head down towards the guys at the start, noticing the mage with his rather large hat, but deciding in case the mage wants to do anything bad to me that I should very quickly go to the save point. And also noticing an interesting guy sitting there, and actually thinking at first that he might have actually been an NPC. But then realising that he clearly isn't, and he's just a ghost at the save point, but he's not of much import. So I run over to the mage. Hello there, I was expecting you. As promised, I will share my sorceries. I am afraid that you are unable to learn sorcery. The basic framework, you see, it cannot be taught. Oh, do not fret. Life isn't all about sorcery. You will find your own way. Don't frown with regret. Peer forward with your head high. So at this point I realise that he's probably useless to me. I decide to talk to him again. Hello there. Glad to see you. I decide, okay, well if this guy's completely useless to me, alive, I may as well destroy him. So I quickly remove this fellow and realise he doesn't even drop any items. And then wonder about my choice, thinking if it was correct or not for 1,000 souls. I ponder if I should attack him, but decide against it, as he kicked my ass originally when I very first played Dark Souls. But then I remember, hey, I should go down to see the blacksmith in the caverns to see about getting my weapons upgraded. So I immediately approach to do that. So heading down into undead territory, which I haven't done in such a long time, feels very strange to me. But I immediately decide that the dagger is the weapon to be upgraded for me. Not minding the falling damage, as I will be returning to the upper floor to recover my health. I decide to head down and talk with this fellow, which I haven't seen in a long time. And immediately set to reinforcing my dagger. And I turn it into a Ghost Blade 2. And as I said earlier, I kind of regret that choice. I wish I had upgraded the spear, the Dark Halberd, now. Because the weapon is very powerful. And I wish I'd made it into a +2 halberd. Because, wow, that thing would be amazing right now. So, nonetheless, head back up, which I've very rarely done, and I comment on this being a very weird experience going up this particular elevator, because I never really went up this elevator, and it's so weird to actually go up it. Going down it so many times was normal-ish, going up it was strange. So I return back towards the camp. I do quickly ponder attacking him again, but decide no, I shouldn't, almost forgetting to rest. Then remembering and quickly turning back, I then decide to head up through the old elevator system. However, I take a slightly wrong turn, however, not a bad thing, since I do find some firebombs. But then I realise, oh whoops, I've gone the wrong way. But it wasn't a bad thing, because at least I got something out of it. And then I continue to head the correct way. And up the stairs we head, to the elevators, and we ascend. Heading towards the forest once again, from the very start. With 10 potions in hand, I then comment to myself, I remember saying about how if I manage to get to another save point with 10 potions, why does it still get reduced to 5 when I respawn? Of course I have to use the potions in order for them to be decreased. So while I'm alive, if say I don't use 10 potions and I die, I will respawn with 10 potions. However, if I use down to 5 potions, or less, I will only respawn with 5, even though I got there with an original 10. And I wonder how this can be. But then I assume to myself that this game is not based around hand-holding. The game is there to be mean to you, to be quite brutal, not allow you to easily do things. So, I just accept it and move on. And just am happy that at least my flasks that I am carrying did not get reduced. So now I head through the forest. I should have, it was last episode, wasn't it, that I bought the seal to the forest. I believe, am I checking it? No, I checked the dagger. But then I realised I was holding it one-handed, that's why it was doing less damage. Because it was doing about the same damage that when I dual-wield it. So I thought, hey, it didn't upgrade, but then I realised I was only single-handed it. And then I hit him with it double-handed, I'm like, oh yes, it's definitely upgraded. I then take note of this corpse with an item, and wonder how I could possibly reach it. Of course, remembering first that there are enemies around, and I should dispose of them before trying to chase after items. And trying to strike the one in the earth, which seems to be not possible with the dagger. I just allow him to pop up and then remove him, gathering some more moss along the way. So now I begin to examine this item and think, how can I get to it? And I didn't actually realise there was even that pit there, which is quite obvious now I look at it, but in that particular area I didn't notice the pit immediately. I look at this edge for a moment and think, maybe I can climb up that, but I guess not. So here I am reaching this passageway. I quickly check over here for anything secret, but then I approach the door with my newfound key, and I wonder what can be behind this miraculous door. So I quickly look and examine the area and decide, hey, this area looks pretty cool. I notice the guy there suddenly in the forest. I'm like, oh hey, there's a guy there. So I'm like, hey, I can walk around him and sneak up behind him. But then I suddenly notice this ghost charging towards me. And I'm like, oh dear, how do I deal with this? I take a swing and then realize, oh yes, he's definitely a ghost. I cannot attack him. I need to use the ghost attacking items. thinking about this, I decide to run, suddenly noticing the mage has engaged me. Trying to fight the mage, I then realize the knight beside me does an incredibly large amount of damage. I decide falling back is in my best interest, but of course the mage has better ranged attacks and snipes me before I can make it anywhere. Having respawned, I decide, hey, I'm going to need to tackle these ghosts, so I better equip items so I can act upon this. First of all, I decide, hey, I better swap out the ring. Stealth is not going to be much use in this situation. And I guess I swap out the item a little later. Because I know I do. I noticed this hole, I remember saying, like, I wondered if that was a secret, but it was just a hole I had never noticed before. So then I pretty much just head straight back to where the ghosts are, along this route. Deciding whether to continue to attack them or not. I decided that the mage was actually very easy to kill, and thus I hoped the knights would be much the same. However, the knights are obviously very damaging, which is a factor to be watched out for. Taking no lip from these tree men, I dispatch them and move along. Deciding that the halberd is the way to remove this guy, however failing, I decide to use the halberd in order to one-shot these guys. Notice him popping out of the ground, but not to be a problem, just quickly disposing of him. So now I head obviously back towards the ghosts and that mage fellow. I'm deciding to take on the challenge once again, also to recover my souls, of course. I instantly see the knight charging towards me, so I quickly grab my souls and then instantly retreat for the exit. Deciding that I'm going to need better ground in order to fight them. Ooh, cracking my knuckles there. Sorry guys. And then I noticed this body hidden very sneakily behind this rock, and having never noticed it, I decided to quickly grab it. And noticing that these guys have given up on their chase, I decide to approach them. However, noticing the mage seems to want to fight me alone, I decide that I could probably remove him. However, when I switch to my inventory, I suddenly notice the knight charges toward me out of nowhere. I decide it's in my best interest to back off out of his possible range. I'm making sure that he definitely doesn't charge me again. I swap out the dung pies for the transcendent curse. Swapping to the halberd for more damage and reach, to give me an advantage over the knight's long two-handed sword. I pop the curse and intend to begin the fight. The knight instantly taking attention to me, I instantly back off, taking multiple nasty hits. But then finding a glitch at this point. The knight will just keep backing off at this point and will not attack me properly. So, deciding to go in for the kill, I decided to get some sneaky blows, then pulling him to the point where he cannot chase any further. And then just multiple blows on an enemy that won't fight back allows me to make some light work of him. Of course, bearing in mind that he will charge forward should I chase him too much. I'm ready to back off, however leading him back to his break-off point again and making full use of it. removing the knight, and hoping that he drops his sword, which he didn't, leaving me rather disappointed. I then decide that it's only the mage left, and he will be easy to dispatch with a dagger should I just get close enough to him. The mage is there and ready and waiting for me. I decide he's fired his magic, so it's time to approach. Waiting for his spell to be cast. I then move in, and he swaps to his sword, but it's way too late for him. Trying to take me with magic at close range, I make light work of him. Hoping for any items again, but not being granted them. I wonder if these are just standard enemies and not bosses. Wondering if I will have to fight them repeatedly should I die. Wondering how I can possibly manage that with only 2 transcendent curses. I see that flower and think that it is an item and approach it, then discovering that it clearly is not an item. And also spotting that in the distance and thinking that that is also an item, but it could also possibly be a plant, I decide to explore the jungle around the outside opposed to running straight through the middle and attracting every single enemy in the area to me. I notice this open area with many people standing in the open. So I give them a wide berth and try to approach them from the side and rear. Noticing some sort of a mage in the distance, I take it slow. Taking on this bandit type enemy, and hopefully him alone. I watch out for his movements, and then go in for a striking when I see an opening. Waiting for him to take his movements again, I decide to be a little more aggressive, and scoring a nasty critical, destroying him in the process. Then, for some reason, I decided to pick up the stealth ring, so I can sneak up on this guy easier. I check that the ring is definitely active, because as you can see there are no graphics on my feet to indicate it is active. But this is just because the transcendent curse is active, and doesn't seem to allow for more than one. Dealing a backstab and noticing suddenly that a thief is approaching me, looking very much like my old self. I'm wondering, is this an old me that I'm now fighting? But after the last ghost gave me such a hammering, I decided to take it easy. This cleric then backing off and healing himself, being somewhat of a worry to me, I decide I'm going to need to think more logically about this fight. Deciding to take the thief first, trying to remove him before his cleric friend arrives, however arriving way too quickly and healing his thief, I become a little worried. However, the thief did not heal much. So I decide I've got to go in for the strikes, I've got to take out this thief before this cleric makes himself a problem. And then quickly taking a strike and getting the thief down at last. Realizing that the cleric will back off if I do enough damage to him, I just decide to strike at him. But given the amount of strikes I'm allowed to perform and the stunning repeatedly, I decide to just keep laying into him and destroy him outright. Then, laying my focus on a new enemy ahead, I decide to search the area for any more ghosts and men. Noticing some interesting messages, I run to the edge and take a quick peer from the edge, not noticing anything of use. However, noticing a ghost knight and arrows flying at me from an enemy that I do not really spot, I try to identify where this archer is. I catch glimpses, but I'm unable to fix on a location, so I decide I need to fight this ghost. However, my transcendent curse has worn off and I need to reapply it. So I run around trying to search for this archer, because the archer will definitely not allow me to apply this item. but running very close to the area where the archer clearly was, but not finding it, I just decide to retreat in the end. Retreat to a safe area where I can apply my transcendent curse and take on this knight. So, I continue to run away towards the exit. With Ghost in tail, I look back and see that he's not following anymore and decide this is my moment. I apply the curse and instantly begin to fight, being very ready for what this guy can dish out to me. However, taking note of his dodge being a slow dodge. However, his strikes being very quick and damaging, I notice I need to get away and heal. Taking some moments for my own, and noticing that this seems to be his limit around here, I decide to make use of that fact. Using the fact that he will not chase any further than this location to defeat him like I did the last night. Given that they are so dangerous, I assume this is the best course of action, as he could easily kill me in just a couple of strikes. So I keep trying to lead him back to somewhere where he won't follow anymore, having difficulty finding the exact spot where he won't chase anymore. I take some hits, but the plan stays in action. Just lead him back till we find the spot where he won't chase anymore. Upon finding it, I make full use of it, moving in to do damage. And we're moving back when he goes to do a strike. I then continue to hit him, and then just go full bore when I see he's low. Absorbing the wonderful 3,000 souls, we move onward. Now my focus swaps back to the archer that I couldn't notice. Searching the area, I do manage to eventually find where this archer is gone. As I suddenly get shot at and manage to lock on. Noticing it is a ghost archer, and probably the reason why I had such a difficult time noticing it, I then try to lure her shot, managing to do so successfully, and then just lay a bunch of strikes into her, and she dies off of a cliff for me. Which was quite an enjoyable moment, I must admit. It was quite satisfying to watch an enemy dive their own self off, like I've done many times in this game by accident. I then begin to look for treasure in the area, checking below me just in case there is any ridge, should there be loot put on it. Then searching through the trees, and noticing out the corner of my vision a tree man, that I am no doubt going to have to dispatch in order to progress. Throwing caution to the wind, I decide to move in, but noticing he takes 2 strikes from the halberd opposed to 1, and realizing that they do considerably more damage, I decide I should be a little more cautious, especially given that there are suddenly a lot more of them. And then the party begins, with many tree men, all chasing me down, deciding that I'm going to need to dispatch them, and taking a huge amount of damage, I then back off and decide to be a little more cautious, deciding taking on large numbers of them is probably not wise. I then get a little lost at this point, as I'm in a new area and the area is very samey, but then realizing the tree men have given up chase, I decide to pick off a weak one, and then try to eliminate another one before his friends arrive. Deciding that this is my moment, I decide to try and remove all of the tree men before they can gang up on me. 1 at a time, after all, is much easier than 4 at a time. and then decide to keep heading through, as it is items I'm interested in gathering. I notice that little secret route, and I decide to leave it for now, as I wish to examine for items first. Noticing a lot more tree men, I decide I'm going to have to use a little bit of caution. However, one seems to already have got the attention of me, so I remove him, and then his friend comes, and I decide that one at a time will be perfectly fine in my book. However, getting a little swarmed by an additional one, I just switch targets, and he is disposed of too, right before the fourth one arrives, which is then removed just as easily as all the others, in a quick 2 strikes from the halberd. Gathering up all the various mosses, which are useful for obviously removing bad status effects, I switch my vision onto the interesting item I see, and also noticing towards the right that there is some sort of a cliff. Of course, noticing this armor, I'm very intrigued to see how good it is. So I instantly check, and see that it is considerably more heavy, and that it would be not worth using at this point in time. I check the area a little bit for secrets, and of course I notice that ridge up there, and have no clue how to get there. However, I do see an item. Down there I assume that's where I was when I was chasing the bug that gave me the twinkling titanite. So near the start of the forest. Down towards the hydras. So now I decide it's time to explore. It's time to see what this area has to offer. So, I instantly begin looking for that little underpassage you may have seen me notice earlier. Of course, we find a little tree fellow all on its own before that, but it's just an extra 100 souls to me. We then decide, here it is, the passage leading down, it's time to take it and explore. So we follow the route down, see the river, and decide to follow it along. Noticing there's a stone bridge, I remember the comment I made exactly, as I wonder if there's a troll under that. Deciding that the ladder will be the best choice first to pick, just in case the bridge is trapped. Also, noticing an item behind me, I decide to investigate and gather it. Quickly looking at the water just to make sure there aren't any fish or such that are going to dive out and grab me. I then decide to check around here as I see the rope bridge is clearly connected to something. However, then noticing my old friend the hydras at the base of the waterfall. I cross over the bridge and decide, maybe there's some secrets over here, but noticing it is only another way down to fight the hydra. I decide against this course of action and decide to head back up. So the stone bridge is now in my sights. Oh yes, that little brown brick. I remember noticing that and thinking maybe that's a button or something for a secret, and then realizing it's just a part of the wall. So, time to cross the stone bridge. Everything seems fine, so I just cross over. Noticing the trees in this cliff in a very strange pattern, I then decide to head up. At this moment, I'm pretty sure I hear a sound. And I notice the large cat in front of me, and I'm like, okay, so what's this cat going to do? I've clearly got to fight it. And then suddenly it rolls towards me at 100 miles an hour, knocking me for a frickin' 6, and I don't even know what's hit me. I just take cover behind the trees and realize he won't come that far. Then deciding to lure him towards the trees, I might be able to get some sneaky blows outside of his range. So, I then start to pick up some hits against these cats. and damaging them down, and very slowly killing them through this method involving a lot of back and forthing. Luring the cats towards an area where they cannot reach, and then taking them out, I decide to swap my ring for something a little more defensive, just in case I happen to get hit. So just constantly luring the cat towards me, and then taking a blow at it, backing off to make sure it doesn't bite me. And I remember commenting on the cat themselves, that they are strangely wide, and that their mouth is somewhat like a crocodile. Like it's some sort of a strange cat armadillo crocodile thing. I'm not sure being quite what to think of it. After taking this cat down after a number of blows, that is, I can't admit that this was the most intriguing part of the video, but I noticed the other cats on top of the cliff starting to mobilize. And at this point I decide I need to take out this cat. So I take it down right as the other two arrive. Suddenly noticing that I'm going to have to employ this trick somewhat more, I get to it, and begin the action of taking down all of the cats. Luring them towards an area where I can fight them, and obviously being cautious they do not bite me. I then start to be cautious as to not get the cats double team me somehow, but remembering to get sneaky blows against them, but not overextending. No need to overstay your welcome and get a hit unnecessarily. These things do a lot of damage after all. Of course not every hit lands, sometimes they can get far away. I'm getting a lucky dodge there where I thought I got hit. Somehow I got cocky, but luckily dodged out of the way just in time before I got hit. So luck was on my side partially. So after some time, I'll eventually take these cats down, using this same cheap little trick. And of course I did comment on this trick being a little cheap and simple, not really being in the spirit of the game. However, then thinking that the game abuses me all the time, so why shouldn't I abuse the game given the chance? I take a nasty bite, unnecessarily, and heighten my awareness. Deciding to use a humanity for some reason. I do not know why, now looking back on this event, I do not know why I chose to use a humanity, as those are things I cannot recover. Now I think that I shouldn't have used it, and I should have used the Estus Flask. However, noticing that this cat is completely stuck at this point, I decided to make full use of it. However, not being able to lock on for whatever reason, makes it a little more difficult to aim at it. But nonetheless, taking it out became very simple once it was stuck. Finishing it off with a heavy strike with the halberd, and commenting on how I never use the heavy strike, ever. And begin to try to lure this cat into the get stuck position. And then go in for some sneaky blows. With one cat left, my job becomes a lot easier. Just luring it into a corner, and then striking it down. And after it goes down, the area is then cleared out, and I can continue to progress once again. Swapping to the dagger to obviously move a little quicker, I keep my eyes on the area to make sure there isn't another cat that is going to ambush me. I collect a soul and carry along my way. Reaching this area, I decide to check over the cliff briefly, and decide there is probably nothing down there other than death. I then notice in my distance the mushrooms standing in the pool, and then decide that it's probably not a good idea to face them. They are rather large and do not look like the friendly types. So I decide that if I can avoid them, I shall give them a wide berth and avoid them. Making sure to explore the area thoroughly to make sure I do not miss any items. I then notice a ruins in distance on the left. Making sure to obviously keep an eye on these little fungars to make sure that they do not suddenly charge me. I head towards the ruins and decide that this little edge here seems like there could be potentially a secret, but deciding there is no possible way of fitting into there, we head into the ruins themselves. Heading up the stairs, and toward the right, over a bridge, I realize where I am. I realize I'm simply inside the building that I didn't explore. Noticing this building, I decide to look for stuff, and then notice this cat in the window. I'm like, that's strange. It didn't attack me or do anything. I wonder if I can talk to it. And noticing that I can. So the cat speaks in a very catty tongue, and offers me many, many things of knowledge. Speaking of legends not being true, and that I shouldn't bother with them. And traversing the dark. And all sorts of things. I'm not sure what decision I was making at this point, yes or no. I didn't know what I was saying yes or no to. So I decided to just go with yes. So this cat comes up with a very strange idea. She tracks she is the commander of a clan of hunters of the forest, and decides to offer me a place. And I decide that that sounds pretty good. I wouldn't mind being a forest hunter, because it sounds interesting. So we have to establish a covenant, like before. But I decide that this covenant is probably the right one for me. So I decide to agree. So I establish the covenant, and she gives me a ring. And it allows for summoning. And all she does is that she will summon me, and that I defend the forest for her, tirelessly. That is all that she asks of me. I will get great rewards for anything I do. So I decide that this is a pretty cool arrangement. And of course there's one rule. That you cannot hurt or slay your own family or kinsmen. So do not double-cross. That is the only rule. So I bear this in mind and understand it. However, I then think, hang on, I kind of killed everyone already, and yet I did the covenant afterwards. And I check just to make sure that that is fine. All seems fine. As it seems that I've done it before, that everything is just fine and, fine and dandy. And she seems to be absolutely okay with me. given that I made the kills before, I assume I cannot be held responsible for not knowing. After all, they attacked me. And for those of you interested, once I had established this covenant, whenever I came through this area, those people did respawn, however they never attacked me again. They always ignored me. Like I'm an ally of theirs. I noticed these small mushrooms and decided to, again, give them a wide berth in order to avoid them. Strangely enough, I've discovered that those mushrooms don't seem to attack. Of course, I'm not 100% sure, but they just do not seem to. I then notice this bridge, and I notice how, well, how much of a boss fight it looks like. So I decide this is probably my goal of the forest. This is probably the point that I want to reach. So, I head for it. I head for this wonderful, wonderful, clearly a boss fight. The light emerging from the door. I cast open the doors. And head within, wondering what this large thing in the distance is. I do not immediately realize what it is. I think it's some kind of a boss, surrounded by gravestones. However, as I get closer, I notice that it is just one large gravestone with a sword in front of it. And I decide that this is an interesting thing to approach. Approaching the sword, however, starting a cutscene. And thusly what follows surprised me greatly. A wolf was not the most surprising thing. After all, it's just a wolf. However, the wolf then wields the sword. And this came as somewhat of a surprise. Of course, Sir Grey Wolf versus Mr. Winter, round one fight. I did do another voice for that, but I'm quickly overhauling it now. So I decide, okay, it's time to fight this boss. And the reason why I called him Sir Great Wolf is because I actually thought that said, basically, when fighting I didn't really read the name, but I just kind of said Sir Grey Wolf, because that's what I thought it said, but it's actually Sith. And also, it was the last word, not the first word. I thought it was the first word saying Sir. Using the halberd a few times, I realised I cannot actually hit him very well with it. I decided to swap to the dagger. The fight being rather intense, however, being a new boss fight and not knowing what to expect, I just begin striking. However, at this moment, it was very strange. It was almost like the boss glitched. I got a number of free hits, however this did not last long, as he begins to attack once again. So, I decide I'll get my healing stuff ready, just in case. I take a nasty hit and decide to heal, but before I can use it, he pummels me to death in an instant. So, we return back, and this is the end of the video, guys. So, I apologize for the lost audio, but frankly speaking, I am also very sad myself that it was lost, because I hate such things happening, and frankly speaking, couldn't have happened with a worse game. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, like it says. Please like, comment, subscribe, and yes, I'll catch you next time. Have a wonderful day, whatever you're up to out there, and yeah, have a great one. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much, and goodbye.